All right, all right, all right. We're back with my special guest, my good brother, Danny. Just celebrated his first year of recovery. And Danny, what's up? How you doing?
Hi, I'm Daniel Litwack. Please call me Danny. I'm doing good. I just celebrated my first year of sobriety. As you know, you were there.
Yeah.
So
it was impressive. We're just talking about, like, you were having this conversation with your brother about the steps, and we're talking about, okay, well, how does somebody even feel like outside of I wonder what it's like for your brother watching you go through this process where, like, you were somebody else a year ago. A year ago you had to have been, and seeing the evolution, like, and what are his thoughts, or what did he think about what he saw happen?
It's very interesting. I hid my alcoholism as best as I could.
As best as we can, right?
Yeah. And but it came out, and everyone saw it. And, at a certain point, I knew I was alcoholic. Nobody had to tell me. I from previous experiences with other substances,
right.
I knew that I was an alcoholic.
Now, was it like a gradual thing? Like, hey, this is getting really out of control? Or you were just like one day like, dude, this is fucking crazy?
It was just like one day I was just like drinking like 2 liters of vodka and like...
And you're a big guy. But 2 liters is a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, I was drinking like 2 liters of vodka, and I had like this moment of clarity. I was just like, wow. I'm definitely an alcoholic.
Now, was it turning off like noise in your head, or were you like, it just became part of your life that, like, gradually and all of a sudden you woke up one day like, dude, I am drinking 2 liters of vodka? Were you like in pain, or like you were just like, fuck it, this is my life? Like, what was it like for you?
I wasn't in pain. I was in emotional pain, actually.
Okay.
And I was drinking. I had bipolar disorder, and
this was diagnosed before you got sober?
Yes.
Okay. So what they tell you? You have like bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, or like?
I got bipolar 2.
Okay. Cool.
And it's been hard to manage. And in that year or and a half that I was like really heavy on the drinking, I was actually stable. I was coming out of a year-long period of ECT.
Okay.
And
explain to people who don't know what ECT is.
ECT is electroconvulsive therapy. Basically, they give you general anesthesia and they shock you to have a seizure. The treatment is the seizure. They don't know why it works, but they know that it works. So it's common practice in
Did it work for you?
Psychiatric field. For me, it worked incredibly well.
Wow, that's awesome. What was the difference? Could you tell right away, or just gradually as it was going, you were going to the sessions? I
could tell right away.
Oh my God, that's incredible. So before that, you were like unhinged?
Before that, I had a manic episode,
okay.
and I then had like a crazy depressive episode. Couldn't get out of bed, couldn't function. Was trying to sleep away my life.
Yeah.
And then...
How long was the depression episode? How long was that?
It was short because this being my life, this has happened before.
Right.
So they got me into the hospital, went for ECT really quickly.
What role did the alcohol play during this downward slide where you're like, okay, I'm in the for people who don't know about bipolar disorder, not that I'm a doctor, I know that you cycle between like mania and depression, and sometimes it could be brought on by lack of sleep or some other things, or sometimes it just happens on its own. But when it happens, like, you can't just slap yourself out of it. You have to kind of like ride it out. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Right.
This one was brought on by a medication change. I take a drug called lithium that is a mood stabilizer that causes my hands to have tremors.
Right.
And some alcoholics think I'm fresh because my hands have tremors.
Yeah. Like, no, they'll shake it's okay.
Yeah. But I was trying out different drugs to calm down the tremors, and one of the drugs was a barbiturate.
Right.
And I took too much of it because I took as much as my doctor prescribed.
Right.
Just in a short time frame.
Right.
And then I had a manic episode the next day.
Wow.
So it was like really quick. And then I was like manic for 4 or 5 days. And
is that a long time?
Mania can last anywhere from 3 days to 4 weeks.
Wow.
So it was a relatively short manic episode.
Right.
But I did, crazy shit and, just heard voices, had hallucinations.
Were you drinking while this was going on?
Not the way I was later on.
Right.
But, I was having beer to calm me down, I was, trying to get out of my head as much as possible.
Right.
I was having a great time. I mean, like,
sure.
A manic episode is like taking all the drugs at once.
Wow. Yeah, but then eventually you got to pay.
Yeah, and you pay with the depression.
Oh, my God.
And depression is, you don't want to live. And it's worse than not wanting to live. You don't want to die either. You just want to wither away into nothingness.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's like, that's like a passing thought for me. So it's never been like a state of being where you found yourself like that, and at least, your family, you had experience, say, okay, we'll get them in ECT, boom. So then what happens? They give you the ECT and you come out of the depression?
So they do,
Oh, did they take the med? Did they adjust the meds again, or like what was the story with that?
They adjusted the meds again, and then they did. Usually, it's 2 to 4 weeks of ECT treatment in the hospital, and then once a month, they do a taper. Like once a week, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks.
Right.
And then to get you to once a month, and the once a month is maintenance treatment.
Nice.
So they did. So I had 9 treatments in the hospital, which is Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 3 weeks.
Right.
And then I was in the hospital for, all in all, about 40 days.
Okay.
Because I had to come off of my anti-anxiety medications, which are really hard to come off of.
Sure.
So after that, I had the once a month treatment for about a year.
Okay.
And
is this where the drinking really started taking off?
Yeah. So I had started drinking while I was doing ECT.
Okay.
And I was stable and everything was fine. And I had really started drinking
like heavy?
Heavy.
Or was it gradual? Like, I started with a few beers, and a month later I'm drinking 11 beers, or like?
I started chilling with this chick, and at the time I was drinking, maybe like 4 or 5 shots every other day. And then I started chilling with this chick, and I was drinking we would meet up every day after she got off work in Midtown.
Yeah.
And we would go to a bar, and we'd have 5 Irish car bombs.
Oh my God.
Followed by 5 Long Island iced teas.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Sounds like heaven. Sounds like heaven. That and a couple of blasts of cocaine, and I'll be ready to go home and start a fight with my partner. But go ahead. So then that became like a
she and I, we kind of lost touch, but I found something in drinking that I found in nothing else but drugs.
Right.
And I found that I could go to a place that I had never been before, where nothing mattered.
Right.
And I was just it wasn't bliss, but it was just like nothing in the world mattered.
Right. Yeah, like sometimes when people ask me, what it's like being an alcoholic or what it's like being an addict and in active addiction, and they think about like, they see like intervention on TV and they see the end, like the 9th inning, but they don't understand those first 8 innings. Like if you ever in your life just wanted to not give a fuck about anybody or anything but yourself, that's what it's like. Yeah. Like it's the ultimate freedom. Now again, this is how enticing the disease is. The disease ropes you in like that, like, oh, you don't understand. You can feel this free every day and every moment of every day. And if you have like biological predisposition to be an alcoholic, which, people now, science has really come a long way where like, they can understand that like, yeah, your body doesn't digest alcohol the same way. It's like, there's enzymes and blah, 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 and it breaks things down. And, I spoke about this in another episode where like alcohol for us in many ways is like a stimulant, where like for a normal person, it is fucking not. They'll have 7 or 8. If they could have 5 Irish car bombs, they would be on the floor puking. You have 5 and you're fucking ready. Yeah. Like, so it's like an adverse effect to us. And you combine that with, maybe a prolonged period of time of doing that. And then who doesn't want to feel like that all the time? And then it turns on you and it says, no. Now you, like the movie, now you just can't leave, right? And now you're trapped in there. So how did that evolve from you're hanging out with this girl, you're doing this thing, then you find this place where we want to find, which is the oblivion, like it says in the book. Like, I want numbness. I want the noise to be off and I'm fucking free and I don't care. And I'm sorry tomorrow. That's how I used to say, like, I'm sorry tomorrow. I'm just in the moment and this is everything. Like, how does that progress into fucking 2 liters a day trying to crawl out of a bed?
It's crazy because I realized I was an alcoholic when I found oblivion.
Right.
And I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to keep going. I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't really, everybody around me, I was telling my psychiatrist, my therapist, I'm drinking like crazy, and they're all like, you need to stop. Alcohol is a depressant. It's really bad for your bipolar disorder,
Right. Now, yeah, because I've heard of people like, in the rooms, there are people with all different spectrums of, maybe some sort of mental illness or affliction. And alcohol and drugs, they're literally trying to like regulate themselves in some ways where like, I feel like shit. And even though this is poison, quote unquote, it's actually making me feel better. Yeah. Is that what it was for you?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Like, the ECT was keeping me emotionally stable.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I was so used to that roller coaster ride of just going through moods and going through changes that I think I didn't want to be stable.
Right.
I didn't know how
you
to
were
be
like
stable.
Uncomfortable with the stability.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I identify. Yeah, when there's no bombs going off, like you're like, holy shit, here I am.
Yeah, I was just like so uncomfortable with, not being on this roller coaster ride that, I wanted to be on a roller coaster ride.
Right.
And drinking was that roller coaster ride. And, as it progressed and as it got worse, I found myself trapped. Like, there was no way out.
Right.
and I hit a couple of bottoms.
Yeah. Talk about them.
One of my bottoms was when I started needing alcohol in the morning.
Right.
When I started waking up and not, you know,
Was it like physically you needed it, or like mentally, like I need to turn off the noise a little bit?
it was like mentally I needed to turn off the noise. Like I didn't have the shakes. Well, I don't think I had the shakes.
Right. A lot of times people think that like, you know, you'll get the shakes, but like if you keep yourself pickled throughout the day, like you won't get the. I never had the shakes until the end when I really had to. I mean, when I got off heroin, yes, I detoxed, whatever. But like when I stopped like for good, because by the time maybe the shakes might start coming, you're already starting to ingest, and you're already starting to drink a little bit. So like, you know, you woke up one day and you're just like, dude, I need to drink in the morning.
Yeah. I just one day I just was like, yo, I need
It's a line,
alcohol.
and you went over the line.
Yeah, I went over the line, and that was the bottom.
Right.
And it was the pandemic, so you know my liquor store was open. It was open, but it was like understaffed, and you know whatever.
It's so funny. It was an essential business. Was the liquor store, right?
Yeah,
It's so crazy.
yeah.
Oh my god. So what happened?
I started going to supermarkets and looking for flavoring that was alcoholic based,
Right.
and I would grab like a 12-ounce bottle of vanilla extract
Yeah. It's
And
pretty strong stuff.
and I'd down it,
Whoa.
and it was like 35% alcohol.
Yeah. That's like black belt shit.
And then and then I put it back on the shelf.
Are you like seeing yourself like, dude, I'm in a fucking supermarket drinking vanilla? Like, you know? Are you still going to ECT while this is going on, or you had stopped?
I had stopped at this point.
Okay.
And then, all the mouthwash in the house went missing.
Right.
And my parents were like, "You're not drinking the mouthwash, are you?" I was like, No. And I was buying more mouthwash and replacing it.
That's so funny.
And because my parents had the illest liquor collection,
Right.
and I drank all of it.
Right.
And I found that even with drinking, 20, 30 ounces of liquor, I still needed something on top of that. So I drink 20, 30 ounces of vodka or tequila or bourbon or whatever.
And it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, and then I go in the bathroom and I drink half a bottle of mouthwash, and then I get to that place.
Wow.
And
How are you feeling about yourself while this is going on?
I wasn't particularly feeling any type of way about myself.
Right.
It was more or less just about, can I get to that place? Can I keep getting to that place?
Right.
And, it's taking more and more to get to that place. And I found my real bottom when I started drinking hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And
All right, that's 12th degree black belt shit. What was that like?
shit tasted nasty, man.
Yeah, but it works.
It got me drunk. I needed that. I had this big bottle of 70% alcohol, ethanol alcohol, no isopropyl in it.
Right. Yeah, now you're like a chemist.
Yeah. And I'm like, it can't have isopropyl because that'll poison me.
If you guys are still out there, take notes.
It can't have isopropyl alcohol in it because that'll poison me. It can't have certain additives because that'll poison me. So, I had the correct hand sanitizer that had none of the additives. It just had the ethanol, alcohol, and it's some type of thickening agent. And I drink that in the morning. And I'd have about 8 ounces of that. And that would take me where I needed to go, but it wasn't enough.
Right.
Nothing was enough.
Right.
Nothing was ever enough. And then, like, before I got sober, I went out and I bought 6 six-packs of beer and 6 liters of the worst vodka.
Like plastic bottle vodka.
Like plastic bottle vodka, like it tastes worse than it smells.
Yeah. Ugh.
And you have a sip of it, it burns on the way down, and you feel that in your stomach, like it's like churning your stomach into like disgustingness.
Yeah.
I got 6 liters of that.
Wow.
And I drank 36 beers and 6 liters of vodka in under 2 hours.
Whoa.
And
You could have died, bro.
you're telling me.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And I went out and somehow, like, you know, the book talks about that thirst
Yeah.
can never be quenched, you know,
Ever.
ever. And it was like that. Because after I drank all that, I was like, I still needed more, even though I was like so far gone.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a 10th planet with that. Like, that's like, you know, I know because I've been there. You know, I've been there. And it's like, you know, the twilight zone of like, this is my life. That's what that's where the road leads to. Holy shit, this is my life. I just had 36 beers, fucking 6 bottles of poison, and I'm walking around.
Yeah, and the craziest thing is, like, I went to the store
Right.
after I did that,
Wow.
and nobody noticed.
That's so
I
fun.
wasn't zigzagging through the streets.
Yeah.
I was walking straight lines.
Yeah, there are people who talk about that you can drink yourself sober. Or I don't even know what that means, but if that means you walking a straight line, you know, what are the interactions like with your parents and your family while this is going on? Are they like hands off, or do you think that they believe your bullshit and just not calling you on it, or like what do you think?
They thought that I've had conversations with them since then.
Sure.
You know, they thought I was abusing alcohol, but they didn't think I was an alcoholic.
Right. Did they think maybe like some of the, you know, the mental problems that you have were attributing to this, or they were just like, hey, look, he just likes to drink, he's a big guy, you know, blah, blah, blah?
Maybe the latter.
Right. Because in your mind, like, you are behaving, in hindsight, severely abnormally. Like, if you saw somebody else doing that. But, like, I think people really don't understand that an alcoholic or an addict, we hide, like, in plain sight. Because, like, I can slap myself together for 11 minutes when I'm around somebody, and then, you know, whatever. Then I'll be, you know, scraping my car for fucking, you know, cocaine that I thought I spilled, and it's fucking cigarette ash, and I'm, you know, all of that stuff. So, like, you know, I'm not surprised when people are surprised on what we're doing under the veil of, you know.
Well, the craziest shit about all this is that when I was doing amphetamines and cocaine like years ago, and I was an addict. I was an addict for years, and when I was doing cocaine and amphetamines, like, nobody knew. They just thought it was part of my behavior, part of who I was, that I was arrogant, that I was, you know, inflated, that I was full of myself.
Yeah. That you were turned on.
Yeah. They didn't know that I was doing, you know, 4 lines plus Adderall plus Vyvanse plus no dose.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
You know, so.
And then now you're on the other end of the spectrum. You're taking all the down stuff, and then you're still walking around. So how did you get to what is the end like for you, where you ask for help, or what's that story?
So my cousin, who I mentioned at my anniversary meeting,
Yeah, the one that said she brought you to a meeting. Like, how does that even happen?
she's in AA, and
Do you think she could sniff you out?
well, she knew I was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
She was trying to get me on Zoom meetings like 4 months before I even came to an actual AA meeting.
Really? Like, what was she like? Why don't you come to Zoom? Or is she like, Danny, you're fucking up? Like, what was that? What were those conversations like?
She was like, Danny, you're an alcoholic. You need help.
And you were like, what?
I was like, I don't need help. And then she was like, I know you. She was like, I don't think you're ready for help.
Well, that's a very bold and sometimes true statement. Because until you're ready, right?
Yeah. And she kind of saw it play out. I would call her and tell her, that I was drinking crazy amounts of alcohol. And she would just simply say, look, this is the craziest part. She just said, just keep drinking.
Yeah.
Because she knew I wasn't at a point where I wanted to stop.
Right. But the turn signal was on.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to make those phone calls, even like, what is it? Like, like underneath all of the stuff, there's like a little light that's telling you to make these phone calls. If that light isn't there, you ain't making fucking phone calls to nobody.
Yeah.
You're just like, dude, nobody could suggest anything to me. And maybe they were, but I wouldn't even hear them until I was at the point that you're talking about. So you're calling her and you're saying, listen, this is getting a little hairy.
Yeah, I'm saying, listen, I think I'm an alcoholic, just trying to, focus my head, just be like, I think I have a problem, And she was like, I think you do too. And, she tried her best to, get me on Zoom meetings, and I was just like, this doesn't work for me. I need people, And that was the thing, though. I did need people.
Sure.
I needed, like, human interaction.
Yeah.
And so it just got to the point where she was like, go on Intergroup and find a meeting.
Yeah, like online. Like you didn't call them?
Yeah, I called them.
Oh, okay.
Call the number for Intergroup. Find a meeting for tomorrow. I don't care where it is. I don't care what part of the city you have to go to. Just find a meeting for tomorrow. So I found the Diker Heights Keep It Fresh meeting.
Right.
For Thursday nights. And I went to it.
What were you thinking when you were going to the first one? Were you like, fuck it, I'm out of ideas? Or you were just like, found yourself like your feet just moving and you just shuffling it? Like, what was that like?
I was scared.
Yeah.
I was really scared. I thought I was going to be, like, judged.
Right.
Because, as addicts, we think we're going to be judged by people who don't or no longer have the affliction, or,
Yeah.
Even if they've been there, they might still judge you,
Right.
So I thought I was going to be judged by the people in there. So I was really anxious and really scared to go there. And she went with me.
Oh man, that's incredible.
And
Does she live in the neighborhood, or where does she live?
she lives in fucking Jersey.
Oh my God, bro! You see, this is the fucking love. This is the love that we need on this earth. Just people who are willing to go to any length, just to, you know what I'm saying, to help somebody, whether they're related or not, or like that's inspiring. So she meets you at the meeting, and then what happens?
She meets me at my house.
Oh, your house, okay.
She drives me to the meeting.
Oh, she got to make sure you fucking go.
Yeah. She drives me to the meeting.
Right.
1072 80th Street.
Yeah.
And for me, that's like 8 miles from my house.
Right.
Because I live in Bed-Stuy.
Yeah. It's the other side of town.
And so we get to the meeting, and they just start talking, and someone's sharing their experience because it's a speaker night. And I felt hope for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And even though that night I went home and kept drinking,
Right.
and I came back, I told them right then and there, I was like, I'll be here tomorrow night. And I came back the next night, hour and a half on the train, mile walk. I'll be here tomorrow night. And I was there the next night, and I was there on Sunday. And
still drinking or not?
Still drinking until
good.
the following Tuesday.
Yeah.
But
and it's okay for anybody, just so you guys know. You can, when you come to recovery, AA, NA, whatever, CA, the only you can just come in and just chill. You don't have to stop. Like, it's okay. You don't have to. Some people think that, I got to be all the way fucking sober before I go to a meeting. Like, hell no. Like, I bounced in and out like that too until I started putting some days together. It took me like a month. So similar to you, okay, so you're going to the meetings, blah, 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 and then that Tuesday comes, and what happens?
That Tuesday comes, and it was just like, I think I can stop. And I stopped for, I stopped for a year.
But in the beginning, did you say, like, I'm just going to stop, I'm going to give it a week, or just like, did you think to yourself, look, I'm fucking done? And you were getting, for me, I was getting something, once the fog started lifting, I was getting something out of the meeting that I never got. I felt like I never got in my life. Maybe I got it the first few drinks when I was like a kid, or the first few blasts or whatever like that, like, I'm alive. Like, I started to feel that, like, the love. I started to feel that love that, like, that alcohol and drugs gave me. The oblivion to me feels like everything's going to be okay. Don't you worry, my child. That's what oblivion feels like to me. Even though I'm in a coma on the fucking floor, like, but that's what it feels like to me. So I started feeling that kind of stuff in the meeting once the fog started lifting. And that group it's like a very welcoming place to land in AA. Like, you're not getting in there, and the meetings that I've gone to in there, nobody's throwing the fucking big book at your face saying, you have to, blah, 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 blah. Everyone's just like, dude, like, just come in, sit down, chill. You know what I'm saying? People are pretty welcoming there. Like, was that your experience also?
My experience was like that hope that I felt that first night. It was like an acceptance that I had never felt before. Like, people just accepted me for who I was in that moment, even if I drank. And then what started happening for the couple days afterwards was, like, I started feeling like I was letting them down in a certain sense by continuing to drink.
Now, you felt that. They didn't say that.
No, nobody said that to me.
Right.
Nobody was like, oh, you're going to let us down. No.
It's so funny because people say that, like, like, there's that whole thing I'm sure you've heard 7,000 times, like, AA will ruin your drinking. Like, is that what it was kind of like?
Yeah, it was very much like that. It was like, once I set foot in that room and felt that love and felt that welcoming, feeling, and felt just that acceptance that I had never felt before. Every night when I would drink afterwards, I just felt like I was letting them down to a certain extent, and also just like, I just can't do this anymore. I can't Now I've kind of seen the light at this point,
Right.
and I was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Were you surprised that you even felt like that? Like, oh my God, there's another way?
I wasn't surprised, but, one thing that really scared me about AA was the spiritual part.
All the God stuff.
Yeah. But that really scared me about AA. But as soon as I started going, it was just like I needed to be there.
Right.
I was there on Christmas Day.
Wow.
I was there on New Year's Eve.
Wow.
I was there on New Year's Day.
And you were going Sheepshead Bay too, or just Keep It Fresh?
Just Keep It Fresh, because that was the only meeting that I thought was open at that time.
Right.
I didn't know that there were other meetings open.
Sure. That didn't matter. It worked.
Yeah. So, like, in my first 90 days, I only made, 36 meetings,
Okay.
but they were all in person. And
Were you getting numbers? Were you calling people when you weren't? Like, what were you doing on days that you weren't going to meetings?
I was getting numbers from people, and I remember another AA member who runs the group at Keep It Fresh. He gave me a Metro card
Oh, that's nice.
that had like $80 on it.
Oh, if you're not in New York, you don't know. That's like a fucking platinum American Express fucking card.
And he said, use this to get to meetings.
Wow.
And I was so taken aback. Like, I only had a handful of days sober,
Wow.
but I was so taken aback from that, like,
Selflessness.
just looking out for someone else that you don't even know.
Right.
It's hard to describe how I felt. It was just so intense and amazing at the same time. It was like honest love from a stranger.
Right.
So, like, I was getting numbers from people. I was calling people. I was, hitting people up. I was texting people.
Right.
I had like a
little community you were building.
Yeah.
Like a network.
I had like 10, then 20, then 50,
It's a lot.
then 25 numbers. And I would just hit people up, every day. Someone early on said call three alcoholics a day.
Yeah.
And I got a sponsor early on.
How did you pick your sponsor?
Oh,
I always like to ask people this question.
My sponsor kind of picked me.
But nice. That's the old school way. Like, I'm going to fucking help you.
Came up to me. He was like, I know it's hard to find a sponsor. I could, be your interim sponsor until you find a sponsor, or
It's like the ruse.
or I could be your sponsor.
Right.
And
He was like, basically, it's whatever you want. I'm here for you.
yeah.
That's nice.
And I remember, like, the craziest thing, like, the second or the third week that I was coming, me and some other people who were in their, starting their journeys,
Yeah, you guys were all like in the fishbowl together?
Yeah. And my sponsor, we all went to a diner nearby.
Yeah. Old school, yeah.
And it was like the most amazing experience to be not drinking and having an amazing time, and like no drugs are involved, no nothing. The only drug is involved is coffee.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all having a great time, and we're laughing, and we're kicking it back, and, you know.
It's life. It sounds great.
Yeah.
When I got sober, I mean, you got sober during the pandemic. So, you know, even though you're not a Zoom baby, you're a pandemic baby, but you're not a Zoom baby. Some people, they only got sober on Zoom, and then after meetings came open, then they started coming to in person. Like, I call them Zoom fucking babies. But like when I got sober, you know, like that was the thing. You'd go to meetings and then you'd meet the people, and then after every meeting, when you could, everybody go to the diner and you'd fucking eat all the worst food, whatever, cheeseburgers and ice cream and whatever, and it didn't matter. Like, you know, eventually you're like, okay, I gotta start taking care of myself. But like they call it the meeting after the meeting. That is like where a lot of recovery happens. It's not just like, okay, I'm going to come in, sit here for an hour, put a buck in the basket, and I'm going to run home. It's like those meetings after the meeting, like it really felt like for me, like I had almost like a family, you know, of people that were all different in their own way, but we were having the best time. It sounds like it's like a Christmas movie, but like it's really magic when you're experiencing that.
Yeah, definitely. And the craziest thing is like I could be so vulnerable with these people that I barely knew.
Right.
Like usually, you know, you meet people.
You got a front.
Yeah. But I could be so vulnerable immediately with these people that I barely knew. Like, there's something amazing about that.
What makes you what makes you think that? Because that happens to all of us, and to maybe some people slower than others. But eventually, we come to find out that like we're not, like it's okay to be yourself. Like, what is that? You know, like where does that? I wonder where that even comes from. Maybe it's because. And I'm speaking out loud for myself, and I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. But like, maybe it's because when I heard other people from the podium being vulnerable or sharing from the floor being vulnerable, it kind of made it okay for me to be like that. But if nobody did that, I don't think I would have did that. Like I wasn't going to the corner talking about like, you know, I wanted to fucking hurt myself today. Like my friends would be like, "Are you fucking crazy?" Like nobody's having a conversation like that. On the corner or in the bar or in the, you know, waiting online, the cop, like that's not happening. But here in the rooms, like I would hear people, it sounded honest to me, and it allowed me a little bit at a time to like open, like it always says, it takes time for the nut to come out of the shell, to like open up a little bit and to be honest. And it's so freeing. You know, is that similar? Like, what do you think made you feel okay to fucking be like that, or did you just say fuck it?
Well, in part, I'm an open person. Like, I'm very willing to, you know, be open with people. But in part, I think it was because we were all alcoholic.
Right.
Everybody in that room is an alcoholic. They all know what it's like. They've all been there. Maybe their story is like slightly different than mine. Maybe they don't quite get a lot of my story. Maybe they get little bits and pieces out of it, you know?
Right.
But it's like we're all there for the same thing, and we're all alcoholic, and there's something beautiful in that.
Yeah.
That you can't find anywhere else. That it's like this unity that you can't find, that I didn't find anywhere else.
Right.
And that's why I chose to be vulnerable with the people around me, because...
Did it almost feel like natural while you were doing it? Like, ba 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 ba, when you're like fucking hanging out with them?
Yeah, it felt natural. It felt like there was a big weight lifted from my chest.
Nice.
Because I was just like, it's one thing to like describe to someone who doesn't understand. You know, you're trying to describe the feelings that you're going through. You're trying to describe, you know, the emotions that you're dealing with. You're trying to describe, you know, what you're trying to get away from. You're trying to describe what oblivion is like.
Right.
I don't have to describe that to you.
Yeah.
You know, Jay, like, you know what I'm talking about.
100%.
But, you know, your listeners may not. So
maybe
like,
they have their own oblivion.
Yeah.
Who knows? So you're in these diners, you're going to meetings, you're starting to feel comfortable, and then you have a sponsor. What happens next? You guys like start doing step work, or like you like, what's the next chapter? What happens?
So we started doing step work, and we did step 1, step 2, and we got to step 3. And step 3 is the big one. Turn your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand Him.
Now, initially, you were saying that the God stuff was like, yeah, you had some trepidation. As you started putting time together and whatever, what were your feelings like it? What are your feelings about it now? Well, because, you know, AA, it's people who don't know, like, you don't have to believe in anything. Like, you know, it says very specifically, we don't have a monopoly on recovery. You don't have to believe in God, God. It can be a higher power of your own understanding. Make it whatever you want. Sometimes I call mine Chuck. Sometimes I call him Bill. Sometimes I call him Elohim. I fucking whatever. But something outside of myself where I can get some relief when there's nobody around. Yeah. So how did you, or have you gone from where like, I don't know about this stuff to like, maybe.
So I've had an interesting transformation.
Good.
And it happened in part because of that sponsor.
Okay.
Right as we were going through third step, that sponsor relapsed. Mm-hmm. And without knowing it, I did a 12-step call by myself.
Nice. The truth is stranger than fiction. So this guy goes out, and you end up helping him, or like, what's the story?
I wasn't hearing from him. I was trying to contact him. I knew where he lived. You know, I'd been to his house a bunch of times. He lived with some roommates. So I went, coming back from the meeting one night, I went to his house, and I knocked on his door. His roommates answered. I said, "Is so-and-so here?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I went, he welcomed me in, and there was just empty cardboard beer boxes just scattered everywhere.
What did that feel like to you seeing that?
Well, at that point, I was still having urges, but a lot of the power that alcohol had over me had gone away. So
it subsided.
It was like 4 months into my sobriety.
Yeah.
And, the urges had mostly subsided. And so seeing it, I was just like, okay, this is just another thing,
Right. But did you feel like, what did you feel like knowing that, like, oh, this guy was my sponsor, now he went out and drank? Did it make you feel like fucking AA doesn't work, or were you heartbroken, or like what was that like?
It was like I saw him as just another person.
Nice. Because
in reality, your sponsor is just another person. They might have more knowledge than you, but they're just another person like you. They're just like you. That's why they can help you, because they're just like you.
Right. You saw the humanity.
Yeah, I saw the humanity in him, and I asked him because he was too scared to go to the liquor store because a bunch of people knew that he was sober.
Right.
So he was having it delivered to his house.
This is the new wave, right? You can swipe a meal, a bottle, a human. You can swipe love. Like everything is a swipe now. Holy shit.
Yeah. And
so liquor's being delivered to him.
So I asked him for one of the cases of whatever he was drinking.
Right.
Just to be like, look, I know you still need. His whole body was vibrating. He was relapsed. He was, he needed detox, but
sure,
he still needed alcohol. So I wasn't just gonna be like, give me all your alcohol.
No, for those of you who don't know, like you can die from trying to withdraw yourself from alcohol 100%. People think about crack, cocaine, all this other stuff. Dude, alcohol, if you're having a problem stopping, it's always best to be medically removed, meaning go to a detox, have them step you off of that stuff in whatever way, because you can really put yourself, you can have seizures. There's a whole host of shit that maybe sometimes we laugh about, but it's very serious. Like, he could have died, and you're smart by thinking what you were thinking. So, but go ahead.
So I knew he needed alcohol.
Right.
But he didn't need as much alcohol as he had. So I asked for a case. He gave me the case. I was like, okay, so I know the situation. I'm going to call your sponsor now.
Right.
I left the apartment with a case of whatever, and I didn't want it just sitting in the street. So I dumped it all in the street. Right. And then recycled the cans.
Look at you, like a fucking civilian. I'm going to go recycle the cans. He was drinking 2 jugs a day, oblivion, to now he's like a fucking tax-paying citizen. I'm gonna dispose of this and recycle the cans. Oh, my God. The irony, but go ahead. What happened next?
So I called the sponsor, and his sponsor was like, yo, you should have called me. You're not supposed to go on a 12-step call by yourself.
Right.
And
which is true.
And, he was like, I would have gone with you,
Right.
And then, like, later that week, my former sponsor went into detox and came out. And,
nice.
Yeah. And has put together some time since then, so.
Right. So where does God come into all of this stuff, or your higher power? How does that work?
I talked, my former sponsor was like, you need to believe in God. You need to believe in God in order for you to turn your life and your will over to the care of God, in order for you to, do this third
throw
step.
Up when I hear that. Go ahead.
And I was just like, but like, I only like, my higher power is like the people at not the people, but like the meeting.
Right. The thing that you feel at the meeting, the energy, that whatever it is, like that's the higher power.
So I spoke to some people about it. They had to tell me that his relapse wasn't my fault,
Right. Why? Did you think that?
Yeah. I
mean, it's natural if you did. I'm just asking.
There were some thoughts about that.
I don't know if you know, but everything on earth is my fault if you catch me on the wrong fucking day. So, yeah, that's like, but I'm sure because you're just like, dude, this guy was helping me and whatever. So then the people told you it wasn't your fault, and what was next?
So I had an interim sponsor.
Mm-hmm. A new one?
Yes.
Okay.
A woman, which is not necessarily
standard.
It don't matter.
AA. Yeah, it don't matter.
And she helped me to find a new sponsor.
Cool.
And then I found a new sponsor, and we started working the book. Started all over again. If you find a new sponsor, you might start all over again.
Yep.
And then one night, about 5 months into my sobriety, I was standing at a bus stop. I had taken the R back from like a Heights to Court Street to catch the B38 bus at Cadman Plaza and to take me home. The bus was 30 minutes out. It was February. It was either February or early March. I can't remember.
Fucking cold is what he was saying.
Yeah. And so it's like 30 degrees out. I'm layered up. And it was silent, you know? And all of a sudden, it was like my whole self, like aside from my consciousness, my personality and all that contained was like ripped out from me, and just it was somewhere else, and all I was conscious of was my body, and it was the most peaceful I've ever felt. And I heard the words, "I am here," in my left ear. And there was nobody around.
Right. And you weren't on drugs.
I wasn't on drugs.
It wasn't cocaine psychosis.
No, not at all.
No, yeah, just like holy shit, like you're having the spiritual experience. That's what you're having.
And I was having a white light experience, and I was smoking a cigarette. And I'm in the bus stop, you know, like this grimy place, like, and you know, just this peace that was so beautiful, that was just all around me, encompassing my whole being. And to hear the words, "I am here," I could not deny that.
Yeah.
Even though the whole ride home, I was questioning it.
Sure. You can't make pretend it didn't happen. The bell was rung. You can't unring the bell.
And then like that, I was back.
Yeah.
I'm still smoking a cigarette in a bus stop, and I was just like, holy shit, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
And from then on, I believed in God.
Wow.
Now, I'm not religious, but I
Right.
believe in God.
Right. And it's funny because when you have those experiences, you know, I think from the outside looking in and thinking about my own story, is like you earned that. Like, you know, all of those meetings and all of those things. And you were doing the third step, which is turning your will. And you were doing that the whole time. You would, you know, listen, like people, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, you know, I don't know. Like this is when people have problem with the third step. This is how I try to explain it to them. They're like, oh, well, how do I turn my will over to God? I don't understand. Like all this, whatever, the trepidations that normal people have. And I say, listen, you look, if you ever bought drugs from strangers, that's the third step right there. You don't even know what you're getting. Like, you know, you put your money in the hand, you get a white powder, and you hope it works, you know? But with recovery, the hard part and the thing that makes it stick is that it requires legitimacy. It requires you to show up all those days, however many days it was, however many diner visits. It required your sponsor going out and you getting all those things for you to finally end up at that fucking bus stop where this guy shows up. It's great, and that's how that happens. And for some people, it doesn't happen quick enough, and then they don't stick around because we're so used to that instant gratification.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you know, and then it teaches us a lot about life, which is that like all of the long-term real recovery and not sobriety for me is like, all right, I'm separated from drugs and alcohol, but real recovery, the lifestyle is going to require you adopting long-term thinking and action saying like, listen, I'm going to take these steps every day. And at the end of the day, the result is not going to be there. But 6 months, 9 months, or whatever of taking those steps, you know, and then now, right, now we're at a year, right? Now, all of a sudden, next thing you know, you have a year, and you're at this meeting, and like we're there, and we're clapping for you, you're getting a cake, and all of these things are happening. But you know, you know, I want to tie this up because what the most telling thing was, and what I want to ask you about is like, okay, from the start until now, and we were speaking about this right before we started, and this is perfect, is like now somebody's asking you to go and help and talk to a younger kid about, okay, this kid has some of the same, you know, things that you have dealt with, some of the same hurdles or trepidations or afflictions, whatever names you want to call them. Somebody's trusting you to go help somebody else. Like that level of evolution from you, like, you know, to this, like what, like it's undeniable, and it's you. It's not somebody else, and nobody's doing you a favor, and they're not paying you. They're like, Danny, you've earned the right for us to ask you for help. What is that like for you?
To be asked for help?
And for it to be like legit, not like where do I get the best fucking stuff? Like to go and maybe talk to somebody else who's struggling with some mental stuff or whatever. Like what is that like for you to be like, holy shit, like a year ago nobody would ask me for anything. And then here I am, 1 year sober, found a higher power, found a family of friends and people that helped me, earned the respect back or whatever of my family. Like they can trust me. And like now I get to share some of those little things with, like, what does that feel like for you?
It feels incredible.
Is it like surreal? I don't even know what that word means, but like, yeah, like what does it feel like? I used to think like when people would do that, I felt like I was like, I still had a little bit of that like fraud syndrome. Like they go, maybe I'm a fraud. Like, oh, they don't really know. But no, people do know, and they really want you to help them.
No, I really think that I was really ready for it.
Right.
And I don't feel like a fraud.
Oh, that's perfect.
You know, I feel like I can help someone because there's been times, you know, where people from the meetings have been like, oh, can you reach out to this person and just see what's up with them? Or, you know, can you reach out to this person and just make sure everything's all good, you know?
Yeah, checking temperature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've done that, and I've, you know, seen how people are, or, you know, some of the sponsors, like, I know you're close with so-and-so, you know, reach out to them, you know, make sure that, you know, they're doing good, that they're on their game, because I haven't seen them in a while, you know.
Right.
And so, like, that kind of builds up to being asked to, or trusting me to help someone else.
Like a young kid. Would you say kid was like 15 or something?
Yeah.
That's a young kid.
Yeah. And, I mean, like, I'll be honest. I don't have my shit together.
Right. That's what I mean.
I don't have my shit together. And my life, in a lot of ways, is very complicated and very difficult. And I don't have all the answers.
Right.
But I do have experience.
Oh.
And
yeah.
I have experience with addiction and alcoholism and bipolar disorder, and I can help other people with that.
Right.
And I think that experience is very important. I think having the experience is, when having the time with the experience, like time away from the experience, or time with the affliction.
Right. Or time trapped in that thing.
Yeah.
Right. To be trapped, and like maybe let's say in theory, I don't know, but let's say maybe this kid feels trapped, and he doesn't even know the word trapped. He doesn't, and then you explain you share a little bit about who you are, and then one of the things that really worked for me in recovery is that, like, I had all of these feelings and emotions and thoughts, and none of them had any names for me. Like, I didn't know what any of it was. And then when somebody similar to the position that you're in now is saying, no, but this is this, and this is what this is, and they're describing what I'm feeling, and then they're giving it a name, it's like that sense of, you're going to be doing that. That's incredible.
It's a little bit easier for me. I've been in therapy for 20 years.
Right.
I know how to name my emotions. I've gotten a lot better at it in the last 5 years. Just how to, know what I'm feeling, and even, I've even gotten better with it with AA.
Right.
Because, now I know, I'm experiencing this urge because of a certain situation I'm in.
Right.
And being able to read the situation and then go back and be like, it's not really a big deal.
Right. It's not completely out of nowhere in, like, quotes. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's attached to, like, a string.
Yeah.
And just that process, that you can teach that to somebody, maybe they won't suffer as long as we did,
Yeah. But there's also that, and this goes with mental illness as well, there's, being willing to listen and being ready. Just because you have the affliction doesn't mean that you're ready to hear what I have to say.
Right.
And so working with someone who's a teenager is hard because teenagers don't necessarily want to hear what an adult has to say.
I don't even think some of them are capable.
Yeah,
like,
even if I got the same thing that he got, it may be like I could shed light on things that he
plant some seeds, right?
I could plant some seeds, but that's all I can do.
Right.
But I gotta recognize that I don't need to go above and beyond. That I just need to tell this person what they need to look out for.
Yeah.
And then it's in their hands.
Yeah.
It's up to them.
And be there for them.
Yeah.
If when they're ready. That's I think that's everything. Just like preparing ourselves to be there for other people is that's all 12 steps. Not controlling, which is, sometimes how we get. But I'm like, listen, look, I can share my experience, strength, and hope with all 3 of my kids, and they all think, I don't know anything. All they do is all my dad thinks about is AA and fucking money and exercise and God and blah, 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 and boxing. They think that I'm this caveman. And whatever, this is my life. And yes, it's very true. I did God, God, AA, my family, business, money, boxing, UFC, humanity. Those are they're all tied for first place. But that's what's important to me. But also, it allows me to be ready that when I I'll give my son listen, watch out for this. Then he doesn't heed the word. But then when he falls, I don't have to say, I told you so. I can just be there and be like, okay, how can I help you? He already knows that I fucking told him, You know what I'm saying? He already knows. And that's the difference where before AA and before humility and before recovery, I didn't even have that. I had to make sure that you knew that I told you blah, 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 blah. So it's that kind of thing is what I think that, the rest of the world needs is more people who are willing to, what's the saying? You can get a lot more done if it doesn't matter who gets the credit.
Yeah.
And I think, that's a lot about what we do. So anyway, look, man, we're over an hour. Danny, it was incredible Incredible having you.
Before I go,
ahead.
I'd like
Say
to
something.
mention
Close it
something.
out.
So I carry around my 1-year chip
Nice.
to remind me that I got time. I carry around my 6-month chip to remind me how hard it was to get to 6 months.
Yeah.
And I carry around a 24-hour chip to remind me that it's just a 24-hour program.
Yeah. It's a 24-hour life.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Again, spiritual experience. Danny, thanks for coming on, man. I knew it.
You're very
bro,
welcome.
you crushed it. It's incredible. We'll have you on again in a few months with some more updates and whatever. Bye, everybody.